Hey modders, welcome back to ModifedRoll. Don't forget we're sponsored by DM Dice. Check out the link to their website in our description, or head over to dmdice.co.uk and use the code ModifedRoll for 10% off all purchases. In the last episode, the party prepared the town for the arrival of the Sorcerer and his reinforcements. With the town's defenders' spirits lifted, the party attempted to relax and get some well-earned rest. This didn't last for long, however, before the Sorcerer arrived. We join them again now in the midst of battle, as they attempt to rebuke the Sorcerer and his minions. In this, Episode 8 of Season 2 of ModifedRoll, Dreams and Glory. Run in fear.
Shit.
Literally every group hears this bellowing voice from this sorcerer as it washes across this town, and they flee. Yeah, no, it's frightened. Literally every group hears this bellowing voice, and literally, I'm not joking this, I rolled for all of these. Sorcerer. Literally every group washes across this town and they flee. But two groups stand their ground.
Oh god.
What's going to happen now is, moving forward, when it gets to each of your group's turn, or the good guys' group's turn, you're going to have to roll a saving throw against this fear. But for now, so that was the Sorcerer's turn. The remaining group are going to try and push their way in through the gates. They can't all make it in because of the people there, but they're now within sort of... The first group that isn't the Sorcerer is now within range of Casicel's group, but they have pushed their way in, but they can't make him attack this turn. That said, Casicel, you've got the Sorcerer who just bellowed this out, and you've seen literally everyone on the ground near you fucking turn tail and flee. The Sorcerer is still in front of you, and his remaining allies are pushing through the gates. What would you do?
So, is the Sorcerer pretty much the one that's blocking the others from being able to get through?
I mean,
or is it us joined together?
Sort of like the way I'm working it with rules-wise, they couldn't finish the same turn in his space, so they've stopped at the gate, but like next turn they could just walk past him if they wanted.
Okay.
What I'm pretty much saying is you can either attack him or default the group who's following him.
How bad does the Sorcerer look right now?
At this point, he is bedraggled, to say the least. He is bleeding from numerous wounds. He has several arrows in him, scorch marks from magic.
So the scream could be from desperation, like.
Yes, you're not a tactical sort of genius, but you can tell this is him trying to gain some space to get his allies in. Give me a insight check.
Insight. Let's have a look. Have a +3 to that. 23.
Cool. You don't think a single hit's going to finish it off, but a couple might if you roll well. So you can tell he is like on his last legs currently. This is him. This is desperation. He's trying to make space so that his allies can get in and cover for him.
In that case, I'm going to swing my axe at the Sorcerer.
Yep.
That's for one attack. And I think because this is a monk weapon, I can use Dex for this as well, can't I?
Yes, I believe so. Maybe.
So that is a 15.
That's a hit.
Yeah. And then, so I'm going to use that attack to try and lodge the axe in, and then make 2 unarmed strikes on...
Punch the axe head again.
No, just trying to just get as much damage in as possible, so...
Yep, roll.
After I swung back...
Yeah, so you've hit the first one, so do you want to roll your damage first, or do you want to roll for all the attacks first?
I'm going to roll for all my attacks first.
Cool, you rolled it, you hit your first one.
So I've hit him with the axe with my right hand. I'm going to go for a punch from my left. That's another 15.
That's a hit.
And going for a kick. That's a 14.
Also hit.
Okay, so the hand axe, it's a d6. That is a 6 points of damage for that one.
Yep, he's still up.
And I think it's d4 for unarmed at the moment.
I believe so, yeah.
That's a 3. And a 2.
Right. You hit him with the axe,
Yeah.
and as it hits him, it bites into his shoulder, and you let go, and you step back as he staggers, and you launch him with 2 more attacks, and you punch, bang, bang, and it knocks him back. He's still on his feet, but he's hunched forward. He's holding onto the axe head in his shoulder, and his knees are wavering and buckling, but he is still standing.
Okay.
I'm assuming that was like your attack and your sort of
and using my key point for that flurry of blows.
Yeah, so he is still up, but do you want the remaining guys in your group to continue attacking him, or do you want them to focus on the ones who are coming through the gate?
I'd want them to try and attack him as well.
Cool. So I'm just going to have these 5 guys make attacks against him. Wow, that was 2 bad rolls to start with. Oh, that was even 2 more rolls. 1 guy has landed a hit. This sorcerer, he is struggling under your blows, but as your soldiers kind of rush in and around you, he can see that Sinclair's kind of backed off. They've moved away, so he only has to focus on one side, and he's waiting for the attacks now. He's watching them come, and he steps away, and only one of your guys is quick enough to catch him. He lunges forward with his blade and stabs. He thrusts, and he reaches, and you can see him lose his footing as he moves forward and just puts all of his weight behind this, and it catches the sorcerer in his stomach, and he falls to the ground, and the weight of the soldier pushing the blade into him, he falls back, and the soldier lands on top with his blade pushed through his stomach, and he cries out in agony and pain in this same language that you don't recognize. The words themselves grate on your ears and your brain, and they hurt to hear, but he cries out one final time and then falls silent. His arms that were reaching up towards the soldier fall limp, and he falls dead on the ground. The soldiers who are pushing through the gate stop. They go slack for a second. They lower their arms, and you can see them blink a couple of times and then take their weapons and sheath them, and then they stand there. The ones who had previously laid down their weapons also stand in a similar fashion with their arms by their sides, and they don't react. There's a couple of seconds as everyone takes this in. The rest of you who had been filled with this fear, this need to retreat away from the sorcerer, feel that feeling lessen and disintegrate, and you realize that you can turn and head back to where he was, and you see the same thing, this sorcerer lying dead on the ground with the blade through his stomach, and the people outside the gate stood doing nothing. What do you do?
Well, the first thing, certainly what Sinclair's going to do is go and inspect the body of this sorcerer.
Right, so Sinclair, you want to move forward and investigate the body. Like, what are you looking for in particular? Are you checking is he for something he's carrying? Or are you just checking for like information about?
Well, actually, the first thing, the thing that I noticed, Sinclair wants to look at the slits on his neck.
Gills, bitch.
Give me an investigation check.
Okay.
DC is quite low.
Hell yeah, I roll very low. That's 9.
I mean, they're gills.
Are they?
Hell yeah.
They're gills.
Gilliana?
Excellent.
Gilly Sorcerer?
Gilliana? Yeah, no, he has gills.
God, he's a fishman.
For those listening at home, you might have been curious, I'm using these stats for the Kraken Priest from Volo's Guide to Monsters. I will say he's not technically a Kraken Priest. I'm just telling people who are listening for the stats who might be curious. Don't take the word Kraken at face value. That's just what it's called. I have adapted him slightly.
So let's take that at face value.
So the enemy is a Kraken. Yeah. Perfect.
Those are notoriously easy to kill.
Oh, I've just proved it.
And especially because we're so inland. Like cracking.
So you've discovered that these are in fact gills. Gilliana's, Danny's. Gilliana didn't see this, but Danny's sort of assertion earlier was correct. You have discovered that the sorcerer does in fact have gills. What would you like to do with that information? Bear in mind, at this point, everyone else, all the men in your group and all the men in everyone else's group are just like, what do we do? Like they've stopped fighting. Do we kill? You can see a couple of people still pointing weapons at the remaining people, being like, "Do we kill them? What do we do here?"
Am I like still all the way back?
Pretty much where I sort of like grabbed all your tokens and moved them. You guys at this moment, actually no, to be fair, Sinclair has immediately been like, "I'm not afraid anymore," and he's gone back to look at this guy. So if the rest of you would have all moved back at the same time, then yes, you're all back at the point of the gate.
Okay, I'm gonna turn around and say, somebody seize all of the attackers and get them to somewhere secure, ready for questioning, and clap my hands. Quick, come on. What are you waiting for?
Hoorah!
Yeah, hoorah!
Start fucking running towards them. Are you when you send them off, are you like overseeing them, or do you go to the sorcerer as well? I just want to know what you're looking at in the next couple of seconds.
I'll go to the sorcerer as well.
Okay. You get there just as Sinclair is sort of like looking over and pointing. He's like, these are gills. Before we go into sort of in-character stuff, Cazisel and Twilight, what are the two of you doing at this point? Bear in mind, Twilight, for you, it's going to take you like a minute or so to get down off the wall. Are you going to stay on the wall, or is your plan to go downstairs?
I'm going to be like Gimli running down, trying to catch up with all the other fast people. I'm like, I'm built for sprints.
Throw me! What? Throw me!
Yeah, that'll be the next battle. We'll get. I already know that Sinclair can throw me.
Anyway. I've already done that.
So I'll just be making my way downtown.
Walking fast, faces past.
She's probably coming back, she's going to tell the archers, like, guess it's over. I'm going to go down and see what's going on.
Yeah, with your concrete direction, they all begin like lowering their weapons, and as you run away, they all just sort of mill about on the wall, being like, should we stay here? And a few of them are like, I guess we should still keep watch. So like you literally run downstairs, and all the rest were like, yeah, well, I guess we'll stay here. So all like the five who were on the wall, I will say the ones who ran away, they begin making their way back towards the northern wall just to keep watch. But they all stay on the wall for now with no direction otherwise.
Perfect.
Cazisel, you're literally next to this guy as Sinclair has run back and begun looking over. Actually, Joe, I would say because you were next to him, if you wanted to take an action before Sinclair got there, you would have time to do at least one action. Is there anything you in particular would want to do, or would you just begin like directing people?
Probably just be telling people to stand down, holding their fire, and just sort of be aware, just in case any more come along.
Yep. So you sort of give this direction, and your group are continue to keep watch. They're keeping a watchful eye over the other soldiers who haven't advanced yet, but they aren't like attacking them, but they are keeping watch in case they do anything ridiculous. And you sort of step forward as Sinclair is looking over this body. So Sinclair, at this point, everyone is sort of like moved forward. I'm assuming Gilliana, as you've like sent your people forward, you've moved up to this guy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So everyone's at this point. You guys can see Twilight like running down the stairs. Sinclair, do you relay what you've discovered to the rest of them?
Oh yeah. I don't know how to tell you all this, but this man has gills.
Gills?
Yes, gills. He's a fishman.
Not a seaman.
You hear one of your buff party members was like, "Ha! Good one!" as he runs out. Hurrah!
I'm going to turn around and give him a high five.
He high fives you. Hoorah! Semper Fi! Sinclair doesn't laugh, he just looks at you, just like high-fives you and run past, and Sinclair's just like shaking his head.
Someone goes for a high five. And it's just
in a monologue is, for God's sake, is this not a serious moment? Sorry, for Paylor's sake.
So, do we know exactly what this one is? Does anyone
I've never personally
have any
met
experience?
Any fishy people. Have you?
I mean, all of you, if you wish, can roll a history or arcana check. Twilight, I'm going to assume you've like caught up by this point, so you can do it as well.
Okay, I'll like turn up and be like, "There's a load of randomly buff people. I don't remember them being in the village before. Like, where did they come from?"
That's a 19 for Sinclair.
All you hear in the distance, ho, 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 ho.
That is a 13.
What were we running history?
History or arcana, whichever is better for you.
10.
That would be an 18.
Okay, so Twilight, from your the studying that you've done, and Sinclair, just from your training and some of the studying you've done, you're aware there are people who worship beings outside of the standard pantheon. And actually, to be fair, even some of the standard pantheon may grant this as a sort of boon or something similar. This is something that has been granted by a higher power. This man has been gifted an ability, or in this case, skills, from whatever it is he's serving. You would not be able to tell whether this was a god, an outer being, a fiend. Well, you can only roll out fiend. They're probably not going to give somebody gills. But you would not be able to pin down exactly who it is this person is following or what this person is following that is giving him this, but you kind of gather that this is something that's been granted to him by an external power. He hasn't just developed these skills. This is something that has been given to him.
I will kind of relay this to the group and be like, so he didn't start as seaman, he became a seaman. And
He came.
Yeah, he came. I read about it in a book called Captain Pugwash or something, but it was
I see.
and yeah, and there was a lot about gills. I kind of skipped over it. Sorry, Gilliana, but it's something to do with some kind of higher being. I kind of tuned out and went and read romance books afterwards. So I'm not too busy on it, but he didn't start with these. They came to him.
How do you give someone gills?
Try really hard.
I guess you're not wrong.
There are many strange things that go on within the pantheons of this world. Look at the powers that myself and Twilight have been granted.
Yeah, there's definitely many strange things that have happened here.
I mean, you say this as you've got a guy stood next to you with a glowing amethyst hanging in front of his, or glowing ruby in front of his head.
Yeah, I know all about
strange human.
Yes, I remember Cecil is the ass man, yes. He knows all about semen. Cutting that.
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh, Christ on a bike.
Jesus.
I don't think Jesus is helping us now.
Is that Jesus in D&D?
Nope. I think actually, funny enough, the closest Jesus we have is probably the one that Cecil is following.
Oh, interesting.
No, actually, no, hold on. There is another one whose name I can't remember, which I'll find out at some point, but he's probably closer in analogy to Jesus. Anyway, you're having the discussion about the gills. Let's get back to that.
So what you're saying is these gills were possibly put on by someone else as a gift, or what?
Absolutely, yes. They were gifted to this person. By who? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you.
Are any of the like other the people that were with the Gil guy near me? I can just grab quick.
So at this point, we're kind of assuming that conversation took a couple of seconds.
Any like dead bodies or anything?
I mean, there's definitely dead bodies next to you. Would you want to look at a dead person, or would you want to go outside the gate to one of the living people?
No, I want to look at a dead person.
Okay. What are you trying to find out about them?
I just want to see if they have gills.
Easy check. No, they don't have gills.
Well, not everyone has gills. So if the cult...
Episode title, not everyone has gills.
You're not that lucky.
So if it's not a gill cult, that's what I'm getting from this. So luckily, it's not another cult from what I can see.
I will say, Sinclair, you rolled pretty high on your investigation check, didn't you? Yeah.
No, I rolled low on my investigation. I rolled a 9.
Oh no, yeah, that's why you just worked out. Yeah, they were just gills.
Gilead, they're fish things.
Yeah, fish people. Gilead, seamen. Gilead, you can roll an investigation check while you're checking for the gills on these people.
Do I get advantage because my name is Giuliana?
No. Because what you're looking for isn't to do with the gills. The gills are pretty easy to determine. I'm just assuming that when you checked, you're giving this guy like a general look over as well.
I mean, yeah. 15.
So yeah, with a 15, you scan this guy, and the way he has landed, he's got one of his hands outstretched holding on to the hilt of his sword, and you recognize a ring with a cracked purple amethyst.
Guys, they're wearing the rings. I was wrong. It is a cult.
They're wearing the wings.
The wings of power.
Sorry, when you said it, all I could picture was Monty Python. Wawis Boyan.
We are terrible.
I'm a fucking horrible person. Anyway, go on.
Well, I don't remember what I was saying now.
They're wearing the rings.
Oh God, I can't say
They're wearing the wings.
Yeah, they are wearing the same rings as we've seen before, so it definitely is a cult.
Oh my gosh.
Well, in fairness, it did say in the letter he would bring 30 more of them.
To be honest, this isn't a shock, so you are right, Sinclair.
I like to imagine Giuliana's like, these are the same people, they're the same cult. And Sinclair's like, yes, we knew that. We have the letter that says they're coming. Giuliana's like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Question, can I look at the guy's teeth? Not weirdly.
No!
I like to clarify, not weirdly. I like to imagine Giuliana's checking this guy's fingers and she looks up and Twilight just prying open his mouth.
Listen, I just want
to He has all his teeth and they are perfectly normal.
I'll be a cult.
Cult of the Tooth Fairy. This guy was not punched by Kazisel, so he has all of his teeth.
Okay, that's fine. I was just checking if they were pointy. No big deal. God. I'm just going to shut his mouth.
No, they all have currently perfectly normal teeth.
Okay, cool. That's fine. I'm not a weird tooth person, I swear.
In fact, strangely normal. No, they all have normal
teeth. Everything's normal. Too normal. He flosses too much.
They've been wearing braces! No, they all have normal teeth.
Okay, fine.
That's just such an interesting character thing for you to go, I'm gonna check their teeth to make sure their teeth aren't weird. It knowing what you know, it makes sense, and it's just not something I had considered. So when you asked, I want to check their teeth, I'm like, yeah, it's normal.
Yeah, she's a dentist. She's a dentist cleric.
I can see this guy has a few cavities that need filled.
Yeah.
In what way?
No, we're not getting into that conversation again.
So Giuliana has spotted this about the rings, and she has told the rest of you. Again, at this point, a little bit of time has passed. You hear the groups that you've sort of sent out to wrangle these other, soldiers who stood there. and you hear raised voices. And when you look up, the people from town are trying to, like, give orders to these soldiers, but they're not reacting. They're just, no matter what's said, what's done, when they're pushed, they're shoved, they're just stood there. They aren't reacting to any sort of outside influence. They aren't moving. They aren't drawing their weapons again, but they're doing nothing.
Hmm.
Can I look over the sorcerer, but actually check for something on his person? Like an orb, like similar to what was in the key.
Yeah, give me an investigation check.
The last time, please. That's 16.
Yeah, he is wearing a amulet on a necklace, which is currently cracked.
Okay.
Oh,
Sinclair is going to take the amulet from around his neck.
Yep, it's on a simple, similar to the rings. It's on a simple silver. Silver. It's not actual silver, as you've already. Well, I'll say this much: the rings aren't pure silver. This looks to be a similar material to the rings. You assume it's not pure silver, but it looks that color, with an amethyst gem sort of set in the middle of it. It's not ornate. It's not, you would see anyone wearing this and assume it's just like a standard necklace, but it comes away freely. But as I've already said, it's already cracked.
Maybe we need to heal. Like, have we got any healing spells, Twy?
I don't think I have anything powerful enough.
Oh dear.
I mean, it depends who you're trying to heal, because this guy is dead.
We can't heal dead people, can we?
Not yet.
Well, not yet. Just wait until I collect enough teeth.
Give it a few levels.
Yeah, wait until I was cast into a necromancer.
Does anyone around here know necromancy?
Don't tempt me.
Yeah. Twilight hasn't multi-classed yet.
Yeah. Maybe we go and see if they have, like, a cleric in the village that's terrible.
Yeah, guys, does anybody know a cleric?
Do you ask this to, like, the townsfolk?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them who's, like, sort of, like, running around, like, they're essentially trying to pull the dead bodies out of the main road, and one of them stops and says, I mean, we have clerics from the local churches, but we don't have anyone here who could perform. And they sort of look at the dead bodies for a second and, like, swallow, and they say, "Oh, we don't have anyone who could perform, like, a resurrection. We have some people who have performed minor healing in the past, but that's about it."
Maybe, yeah. Don't worry about the dead people. They're dead. I'm just more worried about these people that aren't talking, because that's where we're going to get the information from.
I mean, he sort of, like, looks between you and, like, the soldiers outside being shouted at currently, and is like, I don't know.
Thank you for your help.
They sort of look at you and kind of like, okay, and just wander off.
Well, that was no help. Guys, what are we going to do?
Roll me a perception check.
Oh.
See if there's, like, a therapist's office around.
I know, I was literally going to say, is there a therapist anywhere? Perception.
Yeah.
18.
Ooh. Yeah, as this person, like, wanders off, you hear them like, fucking risking my life for this bitch.
Bitch! I risk my life for you!
They look over the shoulder and run away.
Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. Jesus. Wait, I don't know who that is.
Haylor!
Haylor!
Wow,
whoa. Who's taking the Lord's name in vain? Jesus, who needs smiting?
That bitch over there, and I point out.
You just see someone ducking behind a crowd of people. But so what you've gathered is there's like minor clerics from this type, like, essentially they would be no more powerful than Twilight, you can kind of gather.
Oh.
Julio.
Just for the record, like, you guys, like, this is just sort of like standard knowledge. Powerful clerics are not sort of, every village in town. You'd be like, the major cities might have a couple of people who can perform high level magic, but you're not going to run into them everywhere. Like, there's a reason that high level adventurers are in high demand. It's because the magics they use are exceptionally powerful. Like, you'd be looking at someone like at the very top levels of the church to perform anything like above like a 6th or 7th level spell slot.
Yeah, wouldn't you have to go somewhere like the Holy Gate to even find a cleric of that level? Somewhere like that.
So any of the major cities, like the Gilead. Actually, to be fair, this might be why you're asking, but like growing up in like the Elven capital, essentially human capital, any of the capital cities are probably going to have a couple of clerics who can perform major magics. But outside of that, you're looking at the Holy Gate or another major city with like a high throughput of people. Below that, the most you're probably looking to get is like maybe a 5th level spell slot at the most.
This would be way easier if we were at home.
Do you know what? Having said that, give me an insight check.
Ooh, 9.
No, you're just kind of thinking, yeah, this would be a lot easier if I was at home.
Well, I'm fresh out of ideas, guys, so if anybody else wants to give it another go, I'm all ears.
Barman, I'm kind of giving you guys like a time here to interact amongst yourselves. If you guys literally don't know what else to do, I can jump you forward like a minute or two to where everyone else in the city is sort of like going, or the town is like, well, what about this? So this is, you've got like a minute or two here for each of you guys to come up with something. So don't feel like you have to say something. If you don't know what your character would do, your character can just be like, I'll help, but I don't know what else to do. Like, just, I'm only giving you this time for if any of you kind of have something that you want to do in character immediately.
Well, we did that fight quite well, though. I thought we were going to get absolutely smashed, and we are alive. So this is something.
High five! Everyone jumps in the air. High five, slow motion.
High five!
Freeze frame.
I believe this town's safe for now.
Yeah, I think we need to find out where these people were coming from, where this came from.
They came from the north. Do we know of what's out there further north? Do we know what the nearest town is that way, or anything of interest?
I don't know if you remember, but Malkill told us that the Sorcerer came from Cairn. And Cairn is quite a major city in these regions.
So as you're saying that, just sort of in a hope to help the conversation along, Malkill, you can see, is moving up the street now. Like, he's obviously been sent in. Like, a runner has been sent to him to say that the fight is over and the battle has ended, and he's coming down the street towards you all. And as you say that, he gets close and, having caught the end of the conversation, says, "Yes, Cairn to the north. It's the closest major city. Do you have a lead? Do you believe?" Well, obviously, my knowledge of, and he sort of looks down to the dead Sorcerer and he pauses for a second. You can see him sort of controlling himself, closing his eyes. His breathing starts to quicken. He has to control himself to bring it back in to control. And when he opens his eyes, he turns away. So you can tell he's not looking at the dead body of the Sorcerer, but he says, "Yes, my knowledge, as far as I have it, was that the Sorcerer came from Cairn, and he travelled back and forth from there, and yes, that's as much as I knew about him, unfortunately."
So I feel like, for us to delve any further into what's going on here, I feel like for us to find out more, we'd have to go that direction, because if that's the only other link that we know so far between this place and what's going on, maybe we need to head that way and see what we can find over there. I mean, we've done what we can for this town so far. We've defended it. They seem safe now for the time being.
Malkill sort of nods as you're saying this. Is, as far as I'm aware, the only people who have come from Cairn that have directly interacted with the knight were this Sorcerer and the people he brought with him. The knight occasionally would have travelled to Cairn, so I don't know who he interacted with while he was there, but these are the only people who regularly would have come from there. That much I can remember.
What do you guys think? Do you think we should head that way. Is there anything else you guys think would be worth doing?
Yeah, I think it's our only lead at the moment. I don't know what. Unless we want to talk to more pigeons here or like join the child cult. I don't know what else we could do.
As much as I like the idea of joining a child cult, I agree. I think Ken is the next place for us to go. We need answers because I feel like we're not really getting very far in our investigation.
No, I personally agree. I think it's the logical choice. Just
The only thing is, what do we do with these folk? And I direct to ones that are just stood there.
I think that we kind of need to try and talk to them. I know they're not being very responsive, but I think just to like draw a line underneath this chapter, we need to at least have a go at talking to these people.
it's interesting because when we destroyed that orb in the Knight's Keep, all of his soldiers went back to normal. Something is still controlling these people.
I'm going to jump
Yeah.
in quickly just to remind you that a lot of them didn't go back to normal. You have this is the reason why you've got a bunch of people defending the town who aren't soldiers. Most of them have either fallen like catatonic or they're sort of like holding their heads like they're not perfect. Like you can tell there are a few of them who are like recovering.
But they came out from under the spell, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
They're either not reacting to this, they're either like not in direct control, or they're like, in pain, sort of recovering. But that's why you don't have any soldiers defending the town, because none of them are like, oh, I feel fine. Like, yeah, but, I'm the same as I was. No, they're all sort of like, oh, fuck my head. What the fuck happened?
Question. When the other orb was destroyed, the guards took their rings off by free will because we mentioned it, is what I've got written in my notes.
You've got a bunch of people who were listening, ran out and started pulling the rings off of people.
Okay. Right, back into character. They returned to relative normal. We could simply try removing the rings like we did last time in hopes that this amulet, and he holds it up, is what was controlling them.
Do the rings on the ones that's still there, do they still look active, as in no crack in them and still...
Oh, that's a good point.
Rings were cracked on the ones that you pulled off. So when you go out to inspect the ones who are still out there, in this case, when you inspect the ones who are sort of stood about and not really responding, they aren't cracked.
So I don't know about pulling these off, because we did that once and
that man died.
Yeah, that really didn't go well.
So I'm not too favourable of just getting these rings off.
It's interesting. If we recall our memories back to the letter we found, it said in that letter that the new batch was good, not necessarily meaning the new batch of soldiers, the new batch of rings.
Good point. Yeah.
That is true.
Oh no.
So there's a chance that some of these fellas on the floor are of an older batch, or just the simple fact that, we killed them, that these rings have cracked. But the fact that these are a better batch doesn't potentially means that they don't get released. And
how are we going to get this ring off?
Well, either there's still a gem out there controlling them that we must destroy, or there's nothing we can do for them.
I mean, hear me out. I don't know what you guys, like, morally, you guys think, like, how you feel. Like, Twilight, I think I've got a good idea about how you feel about this situation, but I won't make any assumptions.
I like any conversation that starts with, I don't know how you guys feel about this morally.
Yeah. So when we did this the first time, did we take the ringer off the finger? Ringer? Yeah, that's not, yeah, definitely.
Well, he's Brian.
Did we take the ring from the finger Or did we take the finger from the body?
We pulled the ring off the finger,
Yeah.
Okay.
but I have this horrible feeling that if we take the finger, the
same
spell
will
might
happen.
still... But
Because, you know,
Okay, bear in mind, it was a couple of months ago. I'm pretty sure somebody made the suggestion that next time they try taking their finger off with the ring. I can't remember what the consensus was on that, but I'm pretty sure one of you made that suggestion.
and I'm not going to lie, I think it might have been me.
Maybe.
But I'm just saying, personally, me, I'd rather lose my finger than my life. And I'd rather lose my finger than be a slave to whatever this horrible magic is. But obviously I'm very understanding to the fact that may not be everybody's view. And the ideal situation would be to just completely destroy the evil, but I'm thinking time is of the essence. And when are we going to get this opportunity again to question people?
It's looking like these people can't be moved. Like, you've seen people trying to move them and they're not responding. So what can we physically do? Because otherwise we're just going to be standing here. And I don't know how long that trip is going to be, but...
Should we just cut someone's finger off and see?
Sinclair sort of froze up in his mouth at that thought.
And how safe are the people in this town going to be if we leave them here with a load of soldiers that have been infected with these rings that we don't know what they could be set off at any time?
I will cut a finger off. Say the word.
Twilight.
I'd imagine at this point you're all having this conversation and Twilight has actually stood by one of the soldiers with a knife, like held to his hand. I'll fucking do it. I'll cut his fucking finger off. You fucking tell me, I'll fucking do it.
Yeah, literally. That is what she's doing.
I just really don't know. Either way, it's a horrible place to be in.
I'm just going to cut the finger off. I'm just going to do it.
Before you do, Malkiel does chime in because he's there at this point, and he says, "I mean, we do have the cells that they have at the keep for locking up anyone who disobeys the law. We can lock these soldiers up for now. We have enough space that we can lock them up. If you don't know what to do to get them to snap out of this, we can lock them up for now. And while you head out to find a solution, we can look after them. We can make sure they're fed and looked after. But we can keep them safe at the very least. If you don't know what else to do, like at this point, we will defer to whatever you believe is best. We don't know what to do here."
I feel like that's possibly the best option we've got, because I don't want to play around with this any more than we have to. And if we go to the next place, we might be able to find someone who might know have some sort of inkling of the basis of this magic that's being used here. Until we know more about it, I don't feel comfortable just testing and seeing, well, what happens if you do this, what happens if you do that. I feel like best option is keep them somewhere safe, where they're not going to cause any harm to themselves, to anyone else. If the worst happens, at least they're monitored and they have a chance to come out of this alive as well.
I agree with Cecil. I mean, these are people's lives at the end of the day. I don't know about other people, but I'm not willing to just condemn people to death straight up.
Absolutely not, but I don't know how many innocent people's lives I'm willing to risk for the sake of some people who we don't know can be trusted.
I agree, there are times to get your hands dirty and there aren't, but I think there's nothing wrong here with putting them in a cell, and if we have to deal with this at a later date and come back here, we'll do it. We could maybe even by then be able to dispel the magic straight away. They'll be looked after here.
Who's going to look after them?
No, Malkiel said he will. Malkiel and his people.
Sort of like, you can see him visibly puff out his chest and say, "We may not be soldiers, but I believe at the very least we can keep people looked after in a cell." And he sort of like glanced to Sinclair. "So long as we can ensure they're locked up safely, we can look after them."
given the state they're in, I don't think they're going to give you much resistance.
Well, hopefully we find the crystal before anything bad happens. Fingers crossed.
I'll just drop the hand.
The whole time, Twilight has been stood off to the side, like, holding a hand up with a knife against one finger. I'll fucking do it! I'll do it!
It was my little sickle covered in stars. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just gonna put my sickle back on my belt.
I mean, I'll say this: if you want to condemn an innocent man to death right here and now, by all means do it. But I'll have no part of it.
No, you would logicked me out of it. I was just in the heat
Says
of
the
battle.
man says the man who threw a party member against the wall.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah, we love to play
Really across the
nice.
room.
We love to play nice in this group.
Oh, I've started it up again. So, from what I can gather, the consensus, the begrudging agreement is that we're going to try and lock these people in the cell and not cut off any fingers for now.
Yeah.
Sure. So Malkiel sort of passes this out to the people. You can still hear in the background people like yelling. He's like, why are you not doing it? And like there's like these other soldiers that have come in are doing nothing. Malkiel sort of grabs a couple of people nearby and directs them, and they're at this point just bodily picking these people up and like slinging them over the shoulder, and they're not reacting. They're like, they're not fighting them, but they're also not making it easy. But people are like picking them up bodily and carrying them towards the keep where there are cells where they can be locked away for now. Malkiel turns to the rest of you and says, We owe you too much, and rightfully I cannot ask you for more. But we cannot, like, you saw us without your direction. We could barely mount a defense. We could perhaps look after this town for a time, but if we could press more upon you, could you please head to Cairn, find out what is happening, speak to the other nobles there, and see if we could be supplied with some form of defense or find out what is going on here. I know it is asking much of you, but you were brought here on false pretenses. From what we can tell, these monster attacks, these so-called monster attacks, were the knight's own doing. Instead of fighting some imaginary monster in the countryside, could we please press upon you to head to Cairn and ask for assistance for us and find out just what has been happening? And you can see Malkiel again getting emotional and choked up on his words as he begs you to assist him and his people in this town.
Absolutely. I promise you, Malkiel, and I promised you this before. We'll find the source of this.
He nods. He turns to someone who has followed him from the centre of town. He says, I wish we could offer you more, but with the people who were already injured, this is the most we can do for you. And he turns to the person next to him. He pulls 2 bottles. Please take these. And he reaches you 2 healing potions. Just standard healing potions.
I thought they were going to give us a bottle of wine.
Better than a bottle of wine.
Yeah, it's just Echo Falls.
Bottle of Lambrini. Bottle of Buckfast. Wee bottle of Bucky. Yo! No, he hands you 2 healing potions.
Okay.
And he says, I don't expect you to head off immediately. I know you've been through much, but I hope these can help you. It's only a few days from here to Cairn, but I hope these can help you on the way, and I hope I can get you there that much swifter. And he reaches whoever would take the healing potions from
Yeah,
him.
who wants to take the healing potions?
I'll take the healing potions.
I mean, just from having re-listened to the level up talk, I know Giuliana was hoping to have the healing potions to give to people with their new disengage action.
Oh yeah, I'll take one.
Yeah.
I'll take one. Someone else can have the other one.
So do you get the iron because he's still...
Yeah, so I'll... Yeah.
I have magic healing stuff, so...
Yeah, same. And they're like the...
Lol, we don't need potions.
I have axe, I punch.
I punch things. So you've got your healing potions. Do you guys, like... Again, this is just for your like intergroup thing. You can talk about this out of character if you want or in character, but Do you plan on like spending the night here to have a long rest, or are you guys going to head off like immediately?
What sort of time would it be? How much daylight is left? Is it towards the evening?
So
or
when you guys headed into the keep, it was like before sunrise, and by the time you came out, it was like sort of early, sort of mid morning. At this point, you're talking late afternoon at the latest.
Okay.
God, what a day.
Yeah, a lot has happened in a very short period
Yeah.
of time.
Maybe it's a good idea we rest up ahead of the journey we've got to make.
I think we've earned some rest and some respite, don't you?
I think you're right. I think we should take the night, head out early in the morning.
Sounds good to me.
There we are. We have it. A plan.
As you guys are discussing sort of heading on to Cairn and resting up for the night, McLeod says, of course, we won't charge you to stay and rest. Like, please stay, rest up for the night and head on in the morning. We want you to be at your best. We cannot express enough our gratitude for what you've done for us so far, and anything else you can do in the future means the world to all of us. We would not begrudge you a night here within our walls. We will cover that ourselves. In fact, please, we will put on a feast to celebrate what you've done here today, and it's the least we could do for you, honestly.
It is a time for you all to celebrate. All the townsfolk.
You all fought hard.
It wasn't just us. You all helped. Exactly.
You all fought hard. You fought the longest battle than any of us. You've been here from the start, and you've seen the other side. You've fought through it, and you've won. You've won back your town. You've won back your home.
As Cecil says that, you can see the people you've fought alongside, the people you've been defending the town with, look at each other and clasping each other on the shoulder and shaking arms and... What?
Sorry, hoorah! That's all I'm thinking.
Fine. Clasping each other on the forearms, and you see them all... So say, like, yeah, we did do this. Like, we defended our town. We did what we could. And you see McLeod and the people nearby sort of, again, puffing out their chests, saying, yeah, we had help, but we did this. We defended our home. And they smile, and they sort of they take you down back to the inn you were staying at, and they put on a spread. And there is a bit of a celebration. There's still a tension in the air as people worry about what's to come. But for tonight, people are able to celebrate. They're able to recognize their own accomplishments. They're able to feel, they can taste the difference in the air. The staleness that was lingering over this town is gone. There's a life that they haven't felt here for what feels like years. In the midst of this, is there anything that you guys would like to do, or do you just join in with the celebrations and prepare for your journey on the next day?
Is there like music?
There's definitely music, and as soon as the music starts up, the group that you were fighting with are straight in there.
Hell yeah, I'm going to be doing that as well. But I'm going to be
Sinclair
like...
will also be, with his armour off as well and flexing his muscles.
Yeah! Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
and I'll just be sat there with a drink, meditating.
Yeah, you're all straight in there. Everyone, including the guys, is twerking in the middle of the dance floor, just fucking giving it stacks. And yeah, you guys are all enjoying it. Sinclair's off the side enjoying a drink, watching, going, yeah, fuck, that's cool.
And then there's me just like on one of the booths.
I said Sinclair. I meant Cecil's off the side of his drink, going, fuck, that's cool. Fuck, those guys are hot.
The ass man strikes again.
What do you think? I'm sitting down.
Oh my god.
Are you trying to kill me? Sorry, what's Twilight doing?
So, well, after that, Twilight is just going to be sat off to the corner as well, writing in her book kind of the adventures of the day to try and not forget it, and absorbing the atmosphere of the world.
So every so often, So every so often, as Giliana and Sinclair are twerking and dancing with all of the gorgeous fighters, and Cazisel is off to the side, having
Meditating.
meditating. Twilight is looking around, and these last 2 days have been a roller coaster. You've met this, frankly, just interesting and fantastic group that you've been you've traveled with for 2 days. Now, it's not much, but you've gone through a lot, and you think back on what's happened, and you realize that things might not have gone quite as you wanted them to, but it's certainly more interesting than the adventures that you've been reading growing up. You look to these 3 other people in the room being themselves, sort of letting loose and relaxing for the first time that you've seen them in these last 2 days, and just being them, being not what they expect to be, but being themselves. And it hits you that this is what it means to go out on adventure. You've gone through these hardships, you've gone through these victories, and things aren't perfect, things aren't resolved. You've not got to the end of the story yet, but you've got this brief moment of respite. And you can see these people that you've been traveling this, and you can see them be themselves. You can see a moment of relaxation, a moment of self-reflection, and you get a better understanding of who these people are. And you have a moment of introspection, and you realize that you've come to know yourself better for these last 2 days. For good and bad. You've helped people in a dire situation. You've been thrown across the room by someone you thought of as your ally and friend. And you've come to realize that, as hard as that was to experience, that this is someone you consider a friend. And, well, I may be putting words in Twilight's mouth here, but I assume at this point she considers Sinclair a friend. And
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And she thinks back to that moment, and she realizes that while you don't know Sinclair all that well, you recognize that he was probably experiencing something quite difficult there. And had it been someone else, someone who hadn't traveled with him, someone who maybe wasn't as prepared as you were, it might not have gone as well. And you realize that just being there and being able to take that brunt force from him has maybe helped in some way. And having had that reflection after the fact, where Sinclair has spoken to you and been able to apologize, you realize that that's not who Sinclair is, but it is definitely a part of him, as much as it is now, as he stands there on the dance floor twerking with some very buff men and women and Giliana.
Hey, I'm buff.
And the very buff Giliana, as they all stand twerking and dancing with one another. And you realize that things aren't ever going to be perfect, but this is probably the closest you're ever going to be to the stories that you read growing up. You're probably never going to be closer to an adventurer from the books. You're probably never going to be closer to Sir Vincent the Gentleman Thief, short of literally stealing a priceless artifact, than it is to be part of this group. The worries that you've had melt away, just momentarily. And you have a moment where you can reflect and realize that this is what it is to be an adventurer. And you write your journal, and for the briefest moment, you feel a warmth wash over you that you only feel occasionally, but you recognize it as the light of Selune. And you realize that this is where you're meant to be. These are the people you're meant to be with for now. And as difficult as it might be sometimes, this is the reward. This warmth, this feeling of completion and this feeling of accomplishment. This is what you were looking for. The night goes on. You all expend what little energy you had left, whether that's in dancing or watching the dancing or writing about the dancing, whatever it is you're doing for the evening. The night winds on. Everyone expends the last pent-up energy they had from the day, and very swiftly people head to sleep. They head to rest and recover. And each of you head to bed yourselves. Sinclair.
Yes, sir.
What is Sinclair feeling as he drifts off to sleep?
Sinclair is lying there in bed, sort of semi-crushing the bed because he's stupidly heavy. And just thinking back to, relating the night he's had tonight to the feeling he used to have with going out drinking with Horwick back in Haymore really brings a smile to his face, and he's very happy.
As Sinclair drifts off, he falls into a gentle slumber. And as he falls asleep, the darkness is replaced with a bright, warm, golden light that washes over him. You open your eyes to find yourself standing in an endless field of golden grain, which stretches far beyond your sight into an endless horizon with a bright, blue, cloudless sky. Directly above you shines a warm, golden sun which washes over your skin and fills you with a warmth and comfort. There aren't any words and no sounds beyond the light breeze that washes through the wheat and grain around you, but you feel a comfort that you've not felt in a very long time. That feeling stays with you throughout the rest of the night and throughout your slumber. A feeling of warmth and completion and acceptance. Cazisel.
Yes.
What are you thinking about as you head off to sleep?
So he's got a lot more questions in his mind, floating through his mind, that he wishes he could ask Sardior, his god. He's received his gift of having this ruby, and he doesn't know what it's for, or the reasons for having this. And he's thinking about the sorcerer who had the gills, who had that gifted upon him, and he's debating what the reasons were for that gift, and he's conflicted about exactly why he's out here. He feels he's out here for the right reasons. But he's in a realm of heavy confusion. Of he wants to ask these questions. During his meditation, he would be muttering some of these questions out loud under his breath, just trying to grasp at what's going on.
Throughout your meditation, you begin to relax more and more. This is something you've done to help yourself get to sleep at nights. It isn't a case of, you're not expecting a direct, like a thunderbolt breaking an answer. This is something you do to help yourself get to sleep. And you feel yourself relaxing and drifting into the darkness and embracing it and falling asleep. And after a time, you start to feel yourself suffocating. You're struggling to breathe. You feel a tightness around you, and you feel your body tense and your eyes open. All around you is a bright, glimmering red. And it takes your eyes a second to focus, and you realize that what you're looking at is the side of a great ruby. And then the tightness lessens, and it becomes more gentle. And instead of feeling a tightness, you feel like you're being held. And then the tightness returns, and then lessens. And you look around you and you realise that you're cradled in a great ruby spiral as some body, something is wrapped around you. And you look about and around you and you realise that you're being cradled and held in a great ruby dragon. And you feel this tightness as it breathes in, and it lessens as it breathes out. And you realise that you're being cradled and held tightly and comforting in this body. And while you hear no words, no spoken directive, you still feel a comfort of being held and reassured. You recognise this as an affirmation to know that you are doing the right thing, you're on the right track. And the being that guides you and wishes the best for you is pleased with what you've done. You don't hear anything, but you can feel a warmth in your very soul as you lie comforted and held tight as you sleep. Giliana, what is Giliana thinking about as she falls asleep?
Giliana is sat and she's lying down. She's thinking about how she managed to actually lead a group of people into battle. And she may not have been as involved as what she thought, but she's pretty proud of herself for doing such a good job of getting people to want to follow her. And even though she did run away, they all followed her. So like that's pretty good, big achievement for her. It's the first time she's ever done anything like that on her own. She'd probably she's going to be thinking about how Berrien, her older brother, was going to be so mad that the way that she went about it and how ridiculous it was. But she's happy that she did it her way, and she's proud of the fact that it was a success and that all her new friends, we had a first successful battle together. After the other one was a little bit dicey, but we live and learn. Obviously, we have learned, and she's just feeling pretty content and maybe a little bit anxious about the road ahead, but she's feeling pretty confident now. She's feeling pretty good.
Obviously, being an elf, you don't truly fall asleep. You go into what is essentially a trance. But you still do have dreams of a sort. They aren't as deep or as vivid as others would have, but you still have sensations, things as your brain filters through the things from the day and attempts to make sense of them. And as you lie in the bed, falling into this trance-like state, thinking about your family and their views and what you've accomplished for that day, you feel a pressure on the back of your head, and then a stroking sensation running from your forehead down the back of your scalp. And as you concentrate on that, the image fills in more vividly, and you see yourself lying flat on your back with your head resting on your mother's lap. There are no words, again, much as the others, but she silently strokes your head from your forehead down to the back of your scalp. You feel the warmth and the reassurance. Your eyes are closed. You do not see her face or her expression, but you feel the love emanating from her. You do not have to see her expression to know that she is feeling proud of you. And the repeated strokes, she comforts you and reassures you, fill your soul with a warmth that you've not felt for a very long time. That continues on through your trance throughout the night. You do not have vivid dreams or the feeling of a god intervening. You just feel love from your family, from your mother,
as she comforts you and fills you with the pride that she feels for you. Twilight. What does Twilight feel as she, or think about as she falls asleep that night?
So, Twilight is going to be kind of curled up in a ball, kind of ruminating on the thoughts she already had earlier. Maybe reading a little bit, but not much, not enough to kind of stay up too late. And then just before she goes to sleep, she's just going to play a little bit with magic, just to kind of have a few stars dancing around her as she goes to bed, just to remind her of home, just a little bit, and just kind of drift off.
As Twilight falls asleep, she has a lot running through her mind. She thinks on her magic, which has been given to her by Solune. She thinks on her friends, who have had a very rocky start, at least for some. She thinks on the books that she was reading in Sir Vincent, running across the rooftops, having completed another caper, another thievery to return what was rightfully his, and Twilight is there with him, assisting him. As you run across the rooftops, Sir Vincent's shape shifts into that of Giliana, as she leaps from building to building and looks back at you smiling. She jumps down onto the street below, and you follow, and the form is replaced with that of Sinclair, who stands tall and proud, looking at you and smiling and nodding, giving you a look of pride and acceptance, knowing that you have done more than he could have expected. He steps around the corner and you follow, and you see Kazisel stood watching and nodding, waiting to follow your example. You turn again around the corner, and instead of Kazisel you see Cadence, looking on with a warmth and pride as she did the day you left. She steps forward and hugs you tightly to her breast. And as she pushes you back, you instead see the face of Solune, smiling down at you. She runs a hand through your hair and kisses you on the forehead. As she pulls away, you're left in darkness, with the stars flitting about your vision as galaxies turn, and you drift off into a deep slumber. Each of you awake the next morning, feeling refreshed, and the best you've felt in, 2 days really. You know that you have a journey ahead of you, and tasks to accomplish. But for now, you revel in what you've accomplished the day before. You feel a warmth and a sense of pride well within each of you, ready to take on whatever this day has to come. And that is where we're going to end the session. Well, that's it for another episode. Thanks for sticking with us. As usual, I'd like to thank Lixie B and Jeff for the wonderful logo and character art they created for us, the Stormweather Shanty Choir for letting us use their song Drunken Sailor as our theme tune, DMDice for sponsoring us, and all of our wonderful Patreon supporters who have been helping us out. Our recommended podcast for this episode is Kill Every Monster. This is sort of an odd podcast, as it's a sort of combination of an actual play as well as a discussion and review podcast. Aram, the creator of God's Fall and editor for Total Party Thrill, sits down with Dylan, a physicist from Canada, as well as a guest every week, and they will run through one of the monsters from the Monster Manual, discuss its pros and cons, what's good about it, what could be improved, and then at the end they will run a little one-shot which involves the guest playing the role of that particular monster as they sort of highlight what they've just been discussing. I only downloaded the first episode of this podcast yesterday, but I'm already 4 episodes in. It's really enjoyable listen and very informative. It's already given me a lot of ideas of how to use specific monsters in certain environments and situations, and I can't wait to implement those for possibly the detriment of the players in our podcast. But definitely go and check them out. That is Kill Every Monster, and we'll have links for that in the description. We don't have a promo today, but instead I just wanted to shout out a quick project that I worked on, as well as highlight one of the things we have going up on Patreon this weekend. So recently I was a contributor for Creatures of the Underdark from Grimm Press. This almost immediately hit the best-selling page, or the most popular page on DMsGuild, and I think we've already hit silver medal on there. It's a fantastic compendium full of an absolute metric ton of creatures who are all supposed to be native to the Underdark environment. Honestly, I can't sort of overstate just how big this supplement is. It is just absolutely huge, full of creatures, magic items, I think there's even a few spells. You should definitely go check it out, especially because one of the other contributors was Dix from Help Action, one of the podcasts we like to talk a lot about on here. They're featured a lot. And to sort of help promote this, I invited Dix to do an Explore the Lore, much like I did with Max. So on our Patreon this weekend, we will have a special Explore the Guest Lore episode again, this time with Dix from Help Action. At this point, I've just sort of made it my goal to get all of them on, round out the whole group. I get them all on to do an Explore the Lore episode. It's always really interesting and fun to talk to these guys. They are professional DMs, they have a lot of ideas and a lot of experience that they've used for their own games, so you should definitely go check that out. Especially because I'm sort of riding this promotional train here. Dix has been writing for another publication, this time the Goblins of Beetle Hollow, which you can find on IndieGoGo. It was funded in 24 hours, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm one of the backers. I've already pledged to this because it looks just so interesting. It's going to be a 5e D&D setting, and it's just it's a bit different from a lot of the other stuff you can see out there. It details sort of lore and locations for the Hollow itself and provides mechanics usable for D&D, where you can create goblin characters with dark gifts or find out what happens when a creature eats red eye. Beetle Hollow is going to have a lot of stuff in there, and I'm already super excited to get my hands on a copy. So go and check that out on IndieGoGo. We'll have a link for that in the description as well, but that's just another thing that Dix has been working on. But other than that, we just have the standard Patreon things going up this weekend. We'll have a session debrief, as this recording was the last part of session 4. So going up this weekend, we will have a sit down with the party as we all discuss what happened in this session and how they think their characters felt, and out of character how they themselves felt. That will be available only to Patreon supporters of a specific tier and above, but the chat, the Explore the Lore with Dix, will be going up for free. So even if you're not a Patreon supporter, you can get access to that, as well as the Explore the Lore we did previously with Max. That's also up there for free. So if you haven't given that a listen yet, I highly recommend it. They were both really interesting, and I got a lot of information from both of them that I'm hoping to use in the future. But other than that, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you soon.